Hi, welcome back to my excuse me. Welcome back to my what is it, vlog, YouTube, not quite sure. But basically I have for a little while been doing posting some stuff on a site called Podbean about some of the current affairs of today and the things that sort of upset me about them, and why I feel strongly about some stuff, and piecing together some of the information that is out there and seeing where that ends up and takes me. And obviously at the minute what I want to talk about is, as you can guess, because like most of the country and possibly the world, I'm sat in isolation, is the COVID-19 epidemic and the handling of it, and some of the real issues that this has raised within our society, or definitely within parts of our society, and also why I have a deep mistrust of a government, and why I don't automatically prescribe to what they're telling me is completely correct, and actually what I try to do, I try to take all the information and look at it and see if I can come up with something that sounds them some sort of reasoning why they might be doing some of this stuff. So at the minute it's very current around, I shouldn't be touching my face, but there you go. At the minute it's very current around what is going on within the NHS, and the testing procedure and the tests, and actually the lack of tests, and the way that actually what the information I think we are getting told is completely incorrect, and the reasons that I actually believe they are not telling us the truth lies in a different problem. So what do I mean by that? Right, okay, up to date, the NHS has tested 8,000 frontline workers, and the BBC once again today released another headline, in 2,000 NHS workers to get tested a day. And you sit there and you think, wow, that's great, 2,000 a day. Well, it is great until you look at how many frontline NHS workers there are. There are over 400,000 nurses and doctors in the NHS alone. That doesn't include healthcare assistants, that doesn't include the cleaners, that doesn't include all of the people that work ancillary on wards. That is just doctors and nurses currently working in the NHS. So if you take 2,000 being tested a day, it's going to take a long time for all them to be tested. And I feel really quite, actually I feel quite angry about it, if I'm honest. And the reason is that these people are, one, putting their lives at risk, two, are doing it in conditions that even they are saying are not acceptable. Their PPE is not correct, there's not enough of it. We have a government that keeps saying things like, but we're ramping things up. I don't know how you can, for 2 weeks they've been saying this, you know what I mean, and we haven't tested any more people in the last 2 weeks than they have in the previous 2 weeks within the NHS. So that sort of really angers me on so many levels. These people in harm's way, and stories are getting dumbed down. There's doctors coming out saying, we don't want you clapping for us. We need medical equipment. We need to keep ourselves safe. And actually, there was some doctors actually coming out today now saying that they are reluctant, or they will stop, not working to rule, but working in conditions that are actually putting themselves at risk, and rightly so. Last week alone, God bless them, 3 of their fellow members, died. 3 doctors died in this country through, COVID-19. And I'm not saying, it's tragic for anyone that dies and their families, but they're doing it. They're doing it to help us, and they're doing it, putting themselves in harm's way to do that, and we're failing them, and this government, is failing them, and not only that, they just won't take any responsibility for it, and just continue to just, dish out this rhetoric, that, makes you believe that there is something really, fantastic going on here, and there isn't anything fantastic going on here, that the people on the front line are in real trouble, I do believe, and are very unhappy about it, I believe. And you know, there's reports at NHS trusts saying that people will be fired or disciplined if they speak to the press. You know, so allegedly whistleblowers now are not allowed. That's very, very, you know, worrying if it is true. You know, on any level. But coming back to that, I think there's also another reason why they don't want to test a lot of frontline staff. You know, COVID-19 has been present in this country since January that we know of. You know, the first death, I think, was on the 31st of January. You know, they followed a plan called herd immunity, and I will talk a little bit about that. The good thing about herd immunity is actually, with a bit of research, you find herd immunity works. So, what it basically means is that if people with a disease get infected or a virus, they recover, their immune system becomes tolerant, so it has very little effect when it attacks again. If you get enough of people to do that, then the people who are susceptible in a sense are protected because it's not passed on. However, if you look a little bit further in this, we have used herd immunity in this country and many other countries, but it's only ever done with a vaccine. So why that was followed is crazy. But so there's a little bit about herd immunity. Herd immunity does work if you have a vaccine. Yeah, you know, it is not a good thing to follow. It's actually a very dangerous thing to follow if you don't have a vaccine, and we didn't have a vaccine. So it's insane why they did that. Unless there was an agenda, I don't know. Maybe that will come out later as time goes on. The other part of this is that I think is really relevant is going back to the NHS and the workers. The problem you have now is you know, that I think, you know, there's so many cases of infection that we don't know about. A lot of them have ended up in hospital or coming into hospital. The people in the front line are the most likely now people to contract the disease, the virus, if they haven't got any protective equipment or the wrong type of protective equipment. If you start testing them, and you start testing them in their thousands, what you may well find is that actually a lot of these people are tested positive for it. So you know, as we know, even though they have the virus, they may not have the symptoms. However, what you need to do is you need to pull them out, and then for 14 days they need to be quarantined along with the guidelines. And if you do that, so many people will be actually you know, taken out the health service, that the poor state that it's already in, you know, after 10 years of underfunding and cuts and privatisation and all the other stuff that's gone on. That will be the end of any sort of effective you know, medical response, I believe, that we can make in this country. And I think that is the real reason why testing isn't happening on such a huge scale. The deflection will be is, you know, I think, you know, Gove said it yesterday, which was really interesting. We don't have enough chemicals. However, you know, what happened was that the chemical industry said we've got enough chemicals. So if that is the case, someone's not telling the truth. Now, there's no reason for the chemical industry to lie, because at the end of the day, you know, they're going to make money out of it. So why would they say different to him unless you didn't want the tests in the first place, because the tests would then highlight another problem, and that other problem could be so catastrophic that, you know, it makes your response ineffectual. So it's just a consistent, you know, I think, you know, sense of deception, you know, that I find if you just look a little bit further than the headline, you know, and you know, some of the figures just don't lie. You know, when this crisis started, the NHS was something like 100,000 people, recruitment vacancies, you know, half of them nurses, you know, not filled. You know, we weren't in a good state. The thing is, they knew we weren't in a good state. You know, that there was a comment that I think come from, I think it was one of the cabinet ministers, can't remember what was it, that says you can't sort of foresee these things happening. Well, actually, you can foresee these things happening. Actually, it actually didn't start here. It started halfway around the world 3 months prior to it arriving here, is the first thing. The second thing about it is that actually they run models and they spend tens of thousands, if not millions of pounds, researching what would happen in a pandemic and how we would respond and what would need to respond. And this is handed over to government. And the last one was done, I think, about 3 years ago, handed it over to government, completely ignored because of the cost. And this is what I'm saying. They will say that they don't know underfunding, but that this stuff has been out there, for years. They actually pay to find it out and then just do absolutely nothing about it. So it needs to sit at the door. They can't actually say it wasn't their fault and they didn't know and they couldn't foresee it coming, because it wasn't their fault that a virus existed, but they did know it when it was going to arrive, because they were noticed 3 months prior, and they did have a set of plans 3 years prior that, if they'd implemented them, would have put us in a far better place than other countries, I do believe. And this is people's lives. I was so sad today. 500 plus people have died today. Of this, and we're putting people at risk on the front line, because I believe they want to cover up the testing, because they don't really want to find out the results, because the whole thing could collapse, and I don't even know where we'd go from there if that happened. But I don't think it would be good. It certainly wouldn't be good. And I would really like, someone to stand up and take some accountability for this, but there is no accountability, and this is not about preservation of life. This is about self-preservation of certain individuals within our country. You can work out who they are. They career survivors, I do believe, and they're quite happy to sacrifice whatever and whoever, and I'm sure they're planning their exit strategy right now. So I truly feel for all the people who actually go to work today, and who put themselves in harm's way to give care to people, knowing that they're at risk, and then they're coming home and putting their families at risk, and all because of a pound note somewhere down the line, or because someone thought it was better to spend it on something else. And I think that's the endemic problem with the NHS. Everyone goes on about the NHS, but the NHS is a fantastic thing to have. And actually, a broken NHS, and I do believe to some degree it is broken, has been exposed massively, absolutely massively, over the course of the last week. And we have no Prime Minister coming on TV. We have no, we have no leadership around that. We have no accountability. We have no, we just get the same old rhetoric. We're ramping it up. And I think that's along the lines that if we keep telling you something, you believe it. As long as people believe the little one-liner, the little 3-word gag, then that's okay, because that'll keep the masses from basically standing up and saying, this is not fucking right. This is not right, So, yeah. I mean, I think there is a bit of good news that we've actually got more ventilators, which I think is, I'm not completely dismissive and positive, but once again, it's just a catalogue of errors. Even if you look at that, we could have had the ventilators, weeks ago from the EU, because of this sort of ideology again. What happens is, they said that, our Prime Minister said that yes, that would have been great, but we what was it? The email went into my spam box. Now, I think anyone in this country that actually believes that the Prime Minister has a spam box, is I really need you need to have a look at that. I've got to say, right? This is a man that has the highest clearance level of national security, right? Do not think all of his stuff is monitored, right? If something lands in there, do you not think before it even is opened, it's scanned, looked at, he's not using yahoo.com to speak to Angela Merkel, I'm pretty sure. It's so sensitive. So to think that somehow it got lost in a spam box is just ludicrous. You know what I mean? Even then, if you don't want to do a deal with them for whatever reason, just say. But if you do say, then actually what you're doing is you're also saying that my ideology is more important than the lives, of my citizens. And I think that's what it boils down to, and nobody wants to hear that, but that is without a doubt the fact. So this is, I guess, where we are today. I will continue to keep looking. I will continue to keep digging around. I will continue to do what I do, which is to see if I can join up the dots. But this is what I found out today. This is what I truly believe today. There's no testing in the NHS on any great level, because what it will expose would be devastating. So let's just see if we can keep it running long enough. And if people die in the meantime, well, that's all right, because as long as they have their power and they have their jobs, then it's obviously okay, isn't it? But it shouldn't be okay. Anyhow, good luck. I'll speak soon.